where they are gathered in my name, I'll be with them. Although you are scattered, I'm drawing you back to love you again. So come unto me, my child, and I'll give you peace. Then you will be the nation, Lord. The nation, Lord. Children of peace. The nation, Lord. And Yeshua will feast. The nation, Lord. Children of peace, the nation, Lord, through Yeshua will be the nation, Lord. Love one another as you have seen me love you. Sister, my brother, do as I command you, and come unto me, my child, and I'll give you peace. Then you will be the nation. Children of peace, the nation, Lord, on Yeshua will feast. The nation, Lord, children of peace, the nation, Lord, through Yeshua will be my nation, Lord. Children of peace, the nation, Lord. Children of peace.
Hallelujah. Shalom, B'nai. Shalom. Let me get over to my controls. Are you there? Here we are. Welcome, everyone. What is this? October 18th. Welcome to the broadcast. Uh-oh. Got more music coming. This is why I need a producer. Who we got with us today? Shalom, everyone. Harry Houdini, Novice Code Searcher. Tammy Purdy. Victoria. Captain Ron. Farrellin. David Turner. Shalom, everyone. Anna. Saint Rain. How you guys doing? Mikad. Inga. Unicorn. Queen. Oh my gosh. There's a fly in here. I hate flies. Rook X. Miss Yahweh Forever. WRT. No rain. Shalom, everyone. No rains in Louisiana. How about that? Shalom, Arizona. Robert. Welcome, everybody. So, if you may have seen in the title of this broadcast, we're going to be talking about what? PlanetX. the destroyer, Nibiru. It's about that time again, right? Yeah. Lest we forget, that could be a problem here in the last days, because we do know that written in, particularly talking about the day of the Lord in English, in 2 Peter 3:10, it addresses this, that, at the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. But you don't hear these, touchy-feely, hope-giving prophets of the day talking about the day of Yahuwah. So we're going to break it down tonight. We're going to be talking about that, looking at some of the evidence all around us, as well as what's encoded. Right? Because we can observe. When Yeshua gave us the what's called the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24, which is basically an outline for the end times. You can also find the same thing over in Luke. And toward the end of that, he says, "Look up, because your redemption draws near." He doesn't say, "Look to your government," or "pay attention," or micro focus on something. Right? We're told to look up. Why is that? Why is that? Why do men's hearts fail them for the fear of those things coming upon the earth? You ever thought about that? How's my sound, guys? Michael says, I can't tell you how many times I've logged into YouTube and you're just starting out live. Hang that thought. I hate flies. And one landed on my screen, and it just... So, where were we? Oh, yeah, the day of the Lord. It's going to come as a thief in the night. Right? You ever heard that before? A thief in the night? You know where that imagery comes from? This thing we're given to, as far as understanding, these different little idioms and imagery we're getting to understand how this is going to unfold. The key thing to understand is many people are caught unawares. They have no idea what's going on. Why? They don't know their scriptures. They're reading extra biblical books about someone else's prophecies. Right? What does the prophets of the Bible say will happen? Because this is our primary focus, is this book, not some man's book. Because everything in that book, as far as prophecy is concerned, will actually be fulfilled. Yeshua said that. It's also said about our prophet that we're looking for, one of them that we know, Elijah. When he comes, it will be at a time where all of these things are wrapping up. You'll see many prophecies. Many of these prophecies are talking about the same thing, start to converge, take place. You guys with me? Have you ever came across a prophecy in Isaiah, from Isaiah 24, about a particular day? A tough day for the earth. Verse 1. See, Yahuwah is making the earth empty and making it waste. He shall overturn its surfaces and shall scatter abroad its inhabitants. And it shall be as the people, so with the priest, so with the servant, as with his master, and as with the female servant, so with her mistress, and as with the buyer, as with the seller, and as with the lender, so with the borrower, and as with the creditor, so with the debtor. What that means is everybody's the same. Everybody's going to experience this. There is, even though the rich may be burrowing in mountains and digging underground cities, they will not escape what is coming. The earth is completely empty. This is verse 3. It is utterly plundered, for Yahuwah has spoken his word. What he has spoken will happen. The earth shall mourn and wither. The world shall languish and wither, and the haughty people of the earth shall languish. For the earth has been defiled under its inhabitants, because they have transgressed the Torah, and changed the law, and broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore a curse shall consume the earth, and those who dwell in it shall be punished. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth shall be burned, and few men left. The new wine shall fail, the vine shall languish, and those glad in heart shall sigh. The joy of the tambourine shall cease, the noise of those who rejoice shall end, and the joy of the lyre shall cease. No more do they drink wine with a song. Strong drink is bitter to those who drink it. The deserted city shall be broken down, every house shall be shut, no one enters, and there is crying for wine in the street. All joy is darkened, the gladness of the earth shall be gone. The city has left ruins, and the gate is stricken with destruction. For thus it is to be in the midst of the earth among the peoples, like the shaking of an olive tree, like the gleaning of grapes when the grape harvest is done. They lift up their voice, they sing of the excellency of Yahuwah, and they cry aloud from the sea. Therefore praise Yahuwah in the east, the name of Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel, in the coastlands of the sea. That's verse 15. For the ends of the earth shall hear songs, splendor to the righteous one. But I say, I waste away. I waste away. Woe to me, the treacherous betray with treacherously. With treacherousy. The treacherous betray. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon you, O inhabitant of the earth. And it shall be that he who flees from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit, and he who comes up from the midst of the pit shall be caught in a snare. For the windows from on high shall be opened, and the foundations of the earth shall be shaken. The earth shall be utterly broken. The earth shall be completely shattered. The earth shall be fiercely shaken. That's just verse 19. The earth shall stagger like a drunkard, and it shall totter like a hut, and the transgressions shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. In that day it shall be that Yahuwah punishes on the high host of the exalted ones, and on the earth the sovereigns of the earth, the leaders, the kings. They shall all be gathered together, as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison, and be punished after many days. And the moon shall blush, and the sun shall be ashamed, for Yahuwah has reign on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his elders in esteem. You may not have even heard of Isaiah 24, and the reason for that is most pastors won't touch it with a 12-foot pole. It's the truth. That they just will not touch it. They don't like to go near things that are doom and gloom, as I heard someone put it. There's a lot of doom and gloom in the scriptures. But does that mean we avoid it? Does that mean we put on blinders and, jump into, blind faith of believing in doctrines of men instead of what the Holy Spirit is revealing through his servants? There is coming a day, this earth is going to be shaken. Here, just in the past few days, YouTube went down for about an hour and people freaked out. Did you know that? a Pennsylvania police department was inundated to the point where 911 was shut down because people were concerned about their YouTube. They were cut off in a moment. Now imagine that. YouTube's been around a few years, and it's become like this routine every day. If you're on YouTube, you kind of find your information there. But when it goes black, man, do people start freaking out. Now imagine if that had gone down and you weren't able to message on Facebook or any other place, Twitter, everything went down. What would you do then? You'd just be completely cut off. And whatever knowledge you got at that point, is potentially all you're going to have, right? So anything that you've got gleaned from the internet, good or bad, when they flip the switch and when they cut off communications, because it will probably come to that point at some time, because they are trying to conceal something until the last minute. And the reason for that is they don't want panic worldwide. You'll have NASA denying it. Even in their name, NASA, which in Hebrew is a word for deception, to lie. But they are denying something that scientists have already confirmed years ago. Dr. Harrington, you know anything about him? And many others who stake their lives on their research, on the fact that there is indeed a planetary body that will perturb this planet to some point. As described in Isaiah 24, where it's shaken, where it's turned upside down. Ask yourself, what does this? This has never happened before. Isaiah 24 has not yet been fulfilled, guys. This is clearly understood. Even in Dallas Seminary, they have the intelligence to identify that this is an end-time prophecy that will come to pass at the appearance of the Messiah. Do you understand that? I'm glad you brought Gil Broussard up. I have put a message out to him. He has been busy. I didn't see him respond to it. I'm going to try to have Gil on and do a little powwow and see what his research is showing right now. All right, and I know there's some of you that don't agree with Gil. That's okay. Look at the research. It's not about, who's right and who's wrong, and the stuff about stitching. That's the kind of stuff when you talk about chew the meat and spit out the bones. Just because you hear we talk about Nibiru doesn't mean I believe in Anunnaki. Let me be very clear on that. The simple fact that word is used in the end times in reference to an object or a planetary system that most non-believers will refer to before they talk about a biblical term called wormwood. This is why we see this term in the codes, because people in the end times use that term. But we've also determined through the codes that it is the one and the same as the wormwood event. Welcome everybody. I see the people have joined us. Now, if you go to, let's go back to 2 Peter. I want to read to you what he says over here, because he's referring to something that several other prophets have referred to in the scriptures, and that is the day of the Lord in the English. In Hebrew is Yom Yahuwah, but it's clear it is the second coming of the Father, of the Most High, the Son. And this is what it says. 2 Peter 3, verse 10. But in the day of Yahuwah will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with a fervent heat. The earth and also the works therein shall be burned up. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner ought ye be in? Holy conversations and goodliness. looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of Yahuwah, wherein the heavens being on fire. Listen, the sky is going to be on fire. The elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promises, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. Why? Because the meek inherit the earth. That's the righteous ones. But it will be purged, if you will, by fire. There is no getting away around that. There is no pause button on this day. And it doesn't make sense that the Father would first, before he judges America, would make America 7 times great again and then destroy it. And I submit that this is probably why many people are caught unaware, because they don't expect the judgment. Because their prophet has been saying, no, everything's going to be good. God's hand is on this country. I'm going to stop talking about just our country, because I've noticed that it seemed to cause some confusion in some that watch, as if America is the only place going to be judged when he comes. That is not the case. It is the whole earth, folks. The reason I've focused so much on it is because most of my viewers are from the mainland United States. So France and, other countries around the world, don't take that as that you're going to escape. Just look at the headlines around the world. What's happening in South Africa? What's happening in West Africa? All right, what's happening on mainland United States with hurricanes, people dying in those hurricanes, forest fires, all those things that are happening on the earth that are causing distress, the distress of nations. This is the chastening before the wrath, folks. This isn't the wrath. I don't even think we've seen the wrath of Satan yet. But it will come. Now, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to get you back down to reality and a sober, clear thinking mode, because when we get bedazzled by some of the charismatic speakers that we see, it's almost like witchcraft, where you're in this trance state and you've lost focus on what's going to happen. Because transitioning from the Obama administration into the current administration should not be interpreted as bad presidency, good presidency, things were bad, things are going to be better. It's a very vague and general and dangerous way to interpret that. Because the primary purpose of Cyrus in the scriptures, his purpose, in spite of what he did for his people, making his country great again, he still lost his head. But the Father's will was accomplished. And what was that? The restoration of Jerusalem and Israel, allowing the Hebrews to go back and rebuild. Why is this important? Well, the Messiah was going to be coming. He did. After Cyrus, Yeshua was, in Jerusalem, in the temple that had formerly been destroyed. But here it was again rebuilt. Because there were prophecies about that. It was written beforehand, right? So this is how we know, and we can even test. I believe the prophet Ezekiel was specifically given to the end time Israel as a sign. Specifically as a sign. So when we wake up, start to wake up, and he was the one that prophesied about this in chapter 4, that after 2,730 years, the curse would be broken, people would start waking up. And if you do the math, that's 2009. And a lot of people started waking up then, because the curse was over. He started revealing himself to us, his name, his feast. This Hebrew roots movement you talk about as a bad thing was actually the awakening, the restoration movement. He's going to restore all these things back to him, right? Getting back on topic. So the day of Yahuwah. Now this term is found some 31 times in 29 verses. Did you know that? Let me show you. It's one of my favorite places to go. Favorite resources here is the interlinear scripture analyzer. Let's see. You see that in 31 places in 29 verses, we have this phrase that's mentioned, the day of the Lord in English, but clearly, folks, we're talking about the name of the Father, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. All right? All the prophets spoke about this. All the minor prophets spoke about this day. Look at this side here. Malachi, all the way to Malachi, guys. Every prophet spoke about this day. And then you have it mentioned again in Acts. 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, 1 Thessalonians, 2 Peter. So even in the New Testament, it's a concise, consistent message all the way through. You understand? They resonate with one another. They're all talking about the same day. For it is the day of Yahuwah's vengeance and the year of recompenses for controversy of Zion. So it's an appointed day. And I would also mention that any house cleaning that's going to be done is done on this day, not beforehand. Evil gets away with evil until he shows up. It has always been like that, guys. Why do you think Hillary is still free? Why do you think all of them are still free? You know, we talked about Kissinger the other day. He was accused of war crimes back in the time of Vietnam, and he never went to jail. Matter of fact, he's a hero to many in the far left. A hero. Alas, for that day, for the day of Yahuwah is at hand, and as at a destruction of the Almighty it shall come. Joel says, blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm on my holy mountain, and let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. For Yahuwah, he's coming, for it is at hand. So there's going to be a trumpet on that day, right? There's also going to be a voice, and Yahuwah shall utter his voice before his army. For his camp is very great, and for he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of Yahuwah is a great and terrible day. Who can abide it? So our Messiah, folks, is coming as a warrior with a sword and with an army. And I believe, based on research and some of the evidence, that there's going to be 10 days of horrible things happening. Judgment. The wicked is judged. The wicked is removed. I think it takes about 3 days, because there's all indication from what we're seeing in the codes and what we're seeing in the actual prophecies of the prophets that there's a 3-day time of indignation. And it all culminates on that 10th day, the Day of Atonement. And thus he will have fulfilled all but one of the 7 feasts. And that 7th would be tabernacling with him in Jerusalem. That is the place you will be put. That's the place we're required to go. Let me take you over, show you something I've been working on. Now, this is just one example of probably several hundred examples, and not just from me, from several code searchers who are searching the very same topic and are looking for this elusive, this day of Yahuwah, this day of destruction, the destroyer, in other words. You ever heard of the term destroyer? Let me show you which term I'm talking about. Just go back to Jeremiah 4:7, up from his thicket, the destroyer of the Gentiles. Also in the New Testament it's mentioned, neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmured and were destroyed of the destroyer. Psalm 17 verse 4, also speaking to the same word concerning the works of men. By the word of thy lips I have kept the paths, concerning the works of men, by the word of thy lips I have kept from me the paths of the destroyer, which is destruction. The end is destruction. Then we have Judges 16:24 talking about the same word, basically. Different variations of it. Ezekiel, this is the one ruining. And it's very close to Mashiach as well, guys. It's got some of the same letters. Almost looks like Mashiach, doesn't it? Because it has some of the same letters. So there is a connection to the Messiah and this destroyer that is coming. So we got Hamashitit as the destroyer. And there we have the destroyer of planets, or destroyer of star, as an axis term, with Nibiru falling down toward the bottom. But also the very same term that's encoded is in the plain text. The line, remember the line coming from his thicket? It's a destroying line. In the plain text twice we have here, behold the days come, saith Yahuwah. Up at the top, Nibiru. Also in reverse, we've got Ruach, which is the spirit or the breath, and Nibiru in reverse. Also destroyer, and an ELS version of that. But just taking a look at what's running through here. What's going on here? This is Jeremiah. It starts with verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yahuwah, saying, thus speaketh Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel, saying, write thee all the words that I've spoken to thee in a book, for lo, the days come, saith Yahuwah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people, Israel and Judah, saith Yahuwah, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. And all these words that Yahuwah spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah, for thus saith Yahuwah, we have heard the voice of trembling, the voice of fear, and not of peace. Did you hear what it says right here? For thus saith Yahuwah, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail as a child. Wherefore do I see every man in his hands, on his loins, like a woman in travail. All faces are turned into paleness. Alas, for that day is great, so that is none like it, even the time of Jacob's trouble. But he shall be saved. Now, we've talked about Jacob's trouble before. Many Christians interpret that as being Israel alone. That's Israel, that's not us. We've discovered in the identity crisis that it indeed is Ephraim. It is the church who goes through Jacob's trouble. And he shall be saved. And it shall come to pass in that day, say Yahuwah of host, that I will break off his yoke from thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and thy strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. But they shall serve what? Their Elohim and David their king. So we're serving the Most High, Elohim, and Yeshua our king, because he's coming as David, remember? Whom I will raise up to them. Therefore fear not, O my servant Jacob. So in spite of all this that we're talking about doom and gloom, Jacob, fear not. You don't fear, neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity, and Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith Yahuwah, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all nations where I've scattered you, and we talked about this the other day, guys, because if we're talking about Judah alone, just Judah, some 14 to 16,000 Jews worldwide. We're not even talking about the 10 tribes. We know without a shadow of a doubt, through census reports and just statistics, that roughly half those Jews live in America. So if we are to believe that the Father's word is true, and what he says he means, and he means to do, then we have to understand that chapter 30, verse 11, he's also talking about America, guys. Full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee. Yet, so though the nation is destroyed, the people, yet I will not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. Now you see that. Now some of these prophets running around today are not telling you this. They're saying other things. The promise of the Father is he will not make a full end of thee, though he makes a full end of all nations. Guys, that's worldwide. All nations, whether I have scattered thee. And so if we're to understand all nations where I've scattered thee, that's also including the 10 tribes that are worldwide in all 4 corners of the world. So all nations have got a serious problem on the day of the Lord. For thus saith Yahuwah, thy bruise is incurable, and thy wound is grievous. Now I've heard the Spirit of the Most High, the Ruach HaKodesh, tell me that the grievous sins of this country and other countries, the land of Israel, is number 2 in exportation of pornography and abortion. So we're neck and neck. Both covenant nations are 1 and 2 in pornography and abortion. So the grievous sin of this nation is undoubtedly the abortions. No question. It's grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. We're talking about healing this grievous wound. Thou hast no healing medicines. Do you hear that? There are no healing medicines. There is no covering up and hiding 70 million aborted babies, guys. Overthrowing Roe v. Wade is not going to heal it. It's the first step. It's the first step in righting what was wrong. There's no healing medicine. It's a grievous wound. All thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not. For I have wounded thee with a wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one. For the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins are increased. Now we're talking about Israel, guys, in diaspora, Judah and Israel. And what he does, he punishes us. He chastises, but he doesn't destroy us utterly. He doesn't make a full end of us. He does what a father does to a child in correction and in love. While criest thou from thine affection, thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thy iniquity. Because thy sins were increased, I have done all these things to thee. What things? Well, the things that you see going on in America. All the chaotic things we're seeing in, politics, the storms, the floods, the fires, especially in California. Complete neighborhoods, complete cities were burned. Is anybody there to understand what's going on? Can you not see that there is chastening going on? I just read to you what he said. Therefore all that devoured thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee I will give for a prey. For I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thy wounds. I will heal thee of thy wounds, saith Yahuwah, because they called thee an outcast, saying, This is Zion, whom no man seeketh after. Thus saith Yahuwah, Behold, I will bring again the captivity of Jacob's tents, and have mercy on his dwelling places. And the city shall be builded upon her own heap, and the palace shall remain after the manner thereof. And out of them shall proceed thanksgiving, and the voice of them shall make merry. And I will multiply them, and they shall not be few. And I will also glorify them, and they shall not be small. And their children shall be as aforetime, and their congregation shall be established before me. And I will punish all that oppress them. And their nobles shall be of themselves, and their governor shall proceed out of the midst of them. And I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. For who is this that engaged his heart to approach me, saith Yahuwah? He shall be my people, and I will be your Elohim. Behold, the whirlwind of Yahuwah goeth forth in fury. We're talking about a destroyer here, guys. The whirlwind of Yahuwah goeth forth in fury, a continuing whirlwind, and he shall fall with pain upon the head of the wicked. The fierce anger of Yahuwah shall not return until he have done it, until he have performed the intents of his heart. In the latter days ye shall consider it. Are you considering it now? Because we are in the last days. So the destroyer, the star destroyer of the planet, here we are, and that's just one chapter, guys, I read there. Now in this table, and like I've shown you before with persons, there's usually a theme that runs through. I read you just one chapter. There are others that run through here, and they will say basically the same thing. They're going to be talking about the same thing. That's the pattern. That's how we know we have a code. If we look over to, just another another form. And this we have, a dark star is coming. And this is pretty amazing, guys, because we're literally only in the Torah with all of these letters. So the fact that we're looking at the Torah and have such a huge margin down at the bottom means that the statistics involved in this are even more important. They're even more impressive with some of the anomalies that we're seeing with the terms in one line. So we've got short-term anomalies in one line, conjoining together with the destroyer in red, Nibiru in the black and yellow, and it's also Nibiru crossing over here in the yellow. But we also have the dragon, and also the virgin, Bethula. Then there's some that even theorize that just Revelation 12 in the sky, and the dragon comes, the connection to possibly Revelation and the 1/3 of the sun, moons, and stars. Incidentally, let's search for Yom Yahuwah in this table. I want you to see what happens here, because this is going to appear right here. It doesn't appear in the plain text, but it does appear encoded here. I'm going to do that now and show you. Instead of here, it's up here. Look at that. So that's pretty impressive that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters up here all in one line. The day of Yahuwah, the day we're talking about, there's a dark star coming. NASA is here. The dragon. And look at America sitting right there, very close to the only place where Yom Yahuwah appears. In the green, we've got wormwood twice, sharing a letter on itself in the plain text and encoded also in the very same area. Mount Graham is in this table. Of course, if any of you know what Mount Graham is, that's where the infrared telescope called Lucifer, owned by the Vatican, Mount Graham is here. And this is just ELS. We haven't even, nothing in the plain text, guys. This is just ELS terms compiling on one another and telling us something very, very profound without even looking at what's in the plain text, which will also be another facet of this. There's already enough evidence to convince me we got a problem we need to be paying attention to. Darla, are you in the chat room over there? You're not. All right. I haven't been paying attention, so let me catch up with you guys. I don't know what's happening in the chat room. Shalom, Wendy Cohen, Remnant Mont Baker, Michelle McGuire, Tina Smith. Shalom. So we just looked at just 2 examples of coded anomalies in our scriptures with ELS terms, with prophecies from the prophets, all pointing to the same thing. So if a reoccurring theme through all of the prophets, which is the day of Yahuwah, mentioned in every prophet, every minor prophet, all the way to the New Testament, should we pay attention to that? You think it should be important to maybe see what that's about? Even if you believe it's not for you because you're not going to be here, right? I think that is a terrible excuse not to pay attention to that if you think that you're not going to be here, because the safe way to approach that would be, either or, right? Whether you believe in it, doctrines of man or whatever, just to be safe. How could you go wrong studying your scriptures. Because I've had people tell me I don't need to read Revelation. It's not for me. You know, this thing in dispensationalism where rightly dividing the word is that's not mine and that belongs to the Jews. When we're told in the scriptures that all of scripture is good for what? Good for teaching, good for reproof, right? It's the whole word, not just bits and pieces. So that's a dangerous way to approach it. To, you know, that doesn't apply to me, I don't have to even think about that. And it might be discomforting to think about, I get that, but maybe we should examine why it's discomforting. Because there are some people, especially in the Christian circles, who, you know, they don't necessarily believe Bible prophecy. Some believe Bible prophecy's already been fulfilled. Some believe it's all just allegory, or it's supposed to be symbolic, and you know, and so that they have this kind of belief that it's really not for us, it's for another time, and you know, and it's beautiful to read, and there's poetry involved, and that's as far as they go. So when we start talking about end time prophecy, it's just like, what? They don't know anything about rapture. It's all, this is your best life now here on earth. This is this life, right? Yeah, they do. There's some that believe that. Catholic Church believes that the kingdom's here now, and Christ is the Pope. That's what Vicar of Christ means, instead of Christ. He's here instead of Christ, right? I wanted to show you a computer program. It's called Astrograph. It's a space object calculation program. You can put computations in, run different scenarios of potential PlanetX scenarios, and what the effects on the solar system would be if this would happen. I do have a video of somebody I'm trying to interview on this channel, and I haven't been able to put it together yet because they're exactly 12 hours difference in the time. And that is Keith Green. No, excuse me. Is that Keith Green? Keith Hunter. I don't know why I said Keith Green, the singer. Keith Hunter from Occult Physics, very intelligent genius of a guy. Let me just pull that up. Keith, if you're watching, please forgive me for not asking that I use a portion of your video. So I will credit you. I will put your link down in the description so everybody can find your channel. But I want to show you just a snip. It's only a few minutes of Keith's presentation of the different the scenarios that he ran. One being 14 Jupiter masses is PlanetX, and what the effects would be to our solar system. And I find it very sobering. In that particular experiment, because we are seeing exactly the effects in our solar system, with other planets being perturbed, the axis being off. You know, planets are being tilted and pulled to a point, which implies there's something very large doing this. Okay? Again, Isaiah 24. What does this to the planet, guys? Ask yourself. What does this to the planet? What initiates the day of the Lord, if you will? Have you ever thought about that? No, of course. Some people are like, doesn't apply to me. I'm not going to be here. I get it. So I'm going to take you over to Occult Physics and share with you just a snap of this video, not the whole thing, and then we'll talk again.
The astronomical program called Astrograph, this current presentation will seek to find out and to reveal if An exotic PlanetX, so to speak,
Let me know if you guys are able to hear
the
this.
bounds of possibility. Now, the astrograph program not only allows one to dynamically model the solar system gravitationally over time, allowing it to naturally unfold, it also allows one to create additional celestial bodies and add them to the known solar system, allowing them to interact with the established bodies. What follows then are 3 different simulations modelling the deep penetration of a celestial body into the inner solar system, each offering a different mass solution, in line with the major alternative theories for PlanetX. The first solution is for a PlanetX equal to 4 Earth masses, a value favoured by Zecharia Sitchin himself, who appropriated it from the late Robert Harrington of the US Naval Observatory. The next PlanetX scenario involves an intruder body equal to the mass of Mars, which itself is approximately 1/10 the mass of the Earth. The final scenario to consider is the brown dwarf scenario. With this, I model a body equal to 13 Jupiter masses, or 4,134 Earth masses, this being the most conservative estimate for such a body. Now, when using the astrograph software, I decided to create an orbit for each of the 3 scenarios which would be identical with respect to all of the primary orbital elements, with the sole exception of mass. The first scenario then to be tested is the 4 Earth mass body, and you can see here on screen the main elements chosen. Now, I have indeed been very generous with the orbit, ensuring that PlanetX will in fact not directly travel too close to the other bodies within the system. This has been achieved by setting the orbital inclination at 45 degrees, thus ensuring that the planet will pass underneath the general plane of the solar system as it approaches the Sun. In addition to this, the perihelion point has been set at halfway between Venus and the Earth. This further ensures that the planet will thus pierce through the general orbital plane of the solar system, again without passing too close to any of the inner planets. Now, I have chosen here an orbital period equal to approximately 5,125 years, which I have rounded up to the nearest 1,000 days. This gives a precise value of 1,872,000 days. The semi-major axis of the body is set at just over 297 astronomical units, one such unit equal to the mean distance between the Earth and the Sun, or 93 million miles. You can see then from the initial setup that the PlanetX body has been positioned at some 100 astronomical units from the Sun. This is far removed even from the outermost body, which is Pluto, at 40 AU.
It's here. There's Pluto. So as you can see, the PlanetX coming in this simulation, and we will see the results.
Passing through the asteroid belt,
what it did.
Dramatic changes occur to the orbital elements of PlanetX.
So most of the changes in PlanetX itself.
The simulation is brought to an end as PlanetX just crosses over the 100 AU mark, thus returning to its initial starting distance. Now, before examining its effect upon the solar system, it would be well to consider just how the primary orbital elements of PlanetX itself have been altered due to its interaction with the gravitational fields of the other bodies. Examining its orbital period and semi-major axis, both prior to its entry and following its exit from the solar system, one can definitely see a marked change. The orbit has been dynamically transformed, such that a new orbital period is established almost 2,000 years greater than before.
Okay, I want to kind of point something out here, because we know from the book of Enoch that our days were changed at some point during the time of Enoch, maybe during the flood, where we went from how many days to 365, guys? You tell me. I'm not knowing right off the top of my head, but it's an evidence that something significantly happened in our solar system that changed the orbit. You understand? So the exit orbit, you can see there's a difference in the orbit period. Also on the major axis, the axis was also it changed as well, roughly about from 297 to 369 AU. That's pretty significant.
The mean distance from the Sun has also increased by some 72 astronomical units. Now
this changed from every 5,125 years to every 7,094 years. So the orbit changed. Do you see that?
This is something quite common to many objects which approach our Sun, and one may consider the well-known comet Hale-Bopp. When first observed entering our solar system, the orbital period of the body was established at some 4,206 years. However, due to its interaction with the other celestial bodies, its orbital period was transformed to a new value of 2,380
years. See that? You remember Hale-Bopp, the comet that came through during the 90s, had an orbital of 4,206 years. And its orbit changed to 2,380 years.
This clearly demonstrates that there is an element of instability when one considers objects in highly eccentric orbits entering into the inner solar system. They tend to be dramatically transformed, attaining entirely new orbits. What though the effect of PlanetX at 4 Earth masses upon the other bodies within the solar system? Here one has to note that the time taken for the simulation for PlanetX to go from 100 AU outside the solar system to its perihelion and then back out again to 100 AU takes close to 160 years. As a result of this, in addition to running the simulation involving PlanetX, I ran the simulation for 160 years from the default file prior to creating the additional body. This represented a control group against which to test the experimental group involving PlanetX. Now here I just wish to concentrate on one variable, the orbital period values of the planets, and you can see them in the table as presented. They are the established values of the experimental group following the passage of PlanetX into the solar system, its entry and exit back out to the distance of 100 AU. One may note first the orbital period range column. This contains the oscillating elements for each of the planets as they dynamically fluctuate from moment to moment. From observations, they are generally found to be within certain thresholds.
You see that? So we have a change, plus or minus, for every planet. Orbital period, okay?
Which values are given just besides, with the level of displacement also noted. The key question is therefore, do the planets on screen differ significantly from the control group simulation where PlanetX was not present? The answer is yes, but for one planet only, the Earth itself. It would appear that the Earth was affected and did suffer a significant gravitational perturbation from the 4 Earth mass intruder body, causing it to extend its orbital period slightly, which of course would imply a slight disruption to all of its primary orbital elements. All of the oscillating elements then as shown on screen are a match to the control group simulation where PlanetX was not present with the...
Alright, so in this simulation, all the planets, even Earth, even though very fractionally, the orbit time, or the year, which is 365, the time it takes to go around the sun, changed by 0.013 days. That's perturbation. This is what we mean by perturbation. There is a change in the orbit or the axis of the planet. You follow? Let's continue.
The sole exception of the Earth. Its value has suffered a slight increase, and one may see this by comparing it to the control group value as separately determined, itself a close match to the sighted sidereal Earth year, as given. Overall, one may conclude then that it is possible for a body of 4 Earth masses to perturb the inner planets, provided it gets close enough to affect them with its gravity. Let us now turn then to the second scenario. This is for a PlanetX equal to the mass of the planet Mars, which is approximately 1/10 the mass of the Earth. This scenario, therefore, is for an object whose mass is 40 times less than the mass of the PlanetX in the first scenario. All of the other orbital elements are identical though. From the initial starting point then, one can see that the simulation unfolds very much in like manner to the first, with the most dramatic changes to PlanetX itself occurring as it reaches perihelion. Now, in actually running the simulation here, there is in fact no need for me to present any data as such detailing the effect of the intruder body upon the solar system. I can simply state the result. Upon analysing the data, following the passage of PlanetX, it would seem that none of the established planets seems to have suffered a significant perturbation or alteration to their orbits, not even the Earth. The gravitational field of PlanetX here, at 0.1 Earth masses, was simply too weak to affect a noticeable change to the solar system. Now, that being said, if one examines PlanetX itself following its interaction with the solar system, one can see almost identical changes have occurred respecting its own orbital elements, as with the first scenario itself. An increase of near to 2,000 years on its orbital period, and an increase of some 72 AU on its semi-major axis. Let us now turn finally to scenario number 3. This involves simulating a brown dwarf
All right, so
star
this is
entering
the one we
solar
should be
system.
paying attention to,
Now,
guys.
this type of celestial body is somewhere between a large gas giant and our own sun.
Now check that out. Look at the difference between Jupiter and a brown dwarf. Okay, the size is significantly different. This is a lot of a mass. Okay, and this is going to do things in our solar system, whether you believe in flat Earth, round Earth, whatever. These planets are going to interact with this dark star. There's going to be perturbation, and we've already seen it in Uranus and Neptune, where the axes have changed. There's been a tilt, a pull. Incidentally, many believe this is why Saturn is tilted with rings, is because of a gravitational pull at some point. So let's look at the interaction of a brown dwarf star around the size of 13 of these.
Due to certain physical constraints, it is a star that has failed to ignite to become a bright burning star like our own sun. Now, scientists have established that this type of physical body has a lower mass limit of some 13 Jupiter masses, with an upper limit of some 80 Jupiter masses. In this present simulation, I am being most conservative in choosing a brown dwarf star at its lower limit of only 13 Jupiter masses. Now, as with all other previous simulations, all other values are identical. From the starting position, the simulation begins to unfold very much like the previous ones. Herein, though, I present on screen all of the orbital elements for the major planets, so that one can see them as they dynamically change. As the body reaches the outermost part of the solar system, major changes are already underway. In crossing the 40 AU mark, the same orbital distance as Pluto, both Neptune and Uranus have already suffered
And you hear what he said? Now he said at 40 AU, Neptune and Uranus is already being perturbed. Now, going to what has actually happened in our solar system, this has happened already. We have seen evidence, the scientists and astronomers have seen evidence that Uranus and Neptune has already been perturbed. It has already changed axis and therefore also changed orbital path.
significant perturbations. Their oscillating elements are already noticeably out of bounds. And this, some 20 years before the brown dwarf will reach 1 AU.
Did you hear that? 20 years before. The planet is at 25 AU. Neptune and Uranus was perturbed. Now we've seen that in our own situation. They've been talking about the perturbation of these two planets for several years, decades. So far this is lining up.
The same distance from the Sun as the Earth. Now approaching 5 AU, both Saturn and Jupiter have already themselves suffered major disruption.
Alright, so notice there were no collisions, there was no deep impact or anything like that in this scenario, which, by the way, I don't believe this is going to happen in the first place. There's not going to be an impact of Planet X, but it will perturb. We will see what is called plasma discharges, which is galactic lightning, guys. You've seen lightning before, but have you ever seen galactic lightning that go from planet to planet? It's called a static charge in outer space. This is a plasma discharge, and this is what many scientists and some scholars from the University of Colorado who are looking at the Southwest and the Grand Canyon and those things, how it very similar to the Marianas Trench on Mars. And there are some that theorize, have a theory that it is quite possibly evidence of a plasma discharge, which can be replicated in a lab, and the evidence does reflect what we see in the Grand Canyon and what we see on Mars in the Marianas Trench. That a static electrical charge can and has excavated billions of tons of Earth and ejected it into outer space, which would have become asteroids or debris in outer space. But the whole planet would have lit up like a light bulb, sort of like what we saw with Sighting Spring in Mars. This is the first time I'd ever discovered anything about plasma discharge. Those who were trying to prove the electric universe theory at that time was looking for Sighting Spring to do such a thing. That was the first time I'd ever heard about it. I'm convinced it's going to happen again. There is going to be some sort of planet. We're calling it PlanetX. Some will say it's Nibiru. Those that read the Bible will call it wormwood. But it will come into our solar system. It's already here. We're seeing evidence of it all around, guys. Just look around. I mean, the volcanoes that have gone off all around the Earth. These are the things that are going to happen. The physics involved, the astrophysics involved, the gravity, the electrical charges. There's going to be changes. Isaiah 24, I believe, describes this event. The earth is rocked to and fro. It's turned upside down. It's made empty. It's burned in fire. That's a static charge. That's a static discharge on the planet. And there's probably going to be many of them. So as it gets closer and closer, these things, just like the woman in travail having a baby, the birth pains begin to become more intense. This becomes more intense on the earth. The earth is rocked back and forth like a drunkard. It comes from this. And everything we're seeing in the codes, guys, confirms that. So over multiple prophets, over multiple chapters of the Bible, we see a reoccurring theme of this PlanetX connection, this Nibiru connection with the day of Yahuwah. So it is my analysis that in the arrival of our Messiah, could it quite possibly be that this system, whatever they call it, is a catalyst to the destruction, is the actual destroyer that does these things to the planet? I mean, it's very possible, very plausible, because when we see John in Revelation, we see a couple of things in chapter 7 and 8. We see what's happening in the heavens, but we also see what that translates into on the earth. We see what's happening in the spiritual. We see how it translates into the reality. So in the spiritual, the angel dips his censer into the altar and he casts it toward the earth. And the rest of the text goes on to say that a great star, a flaming torch, fell to the earth. Right? So he's seeing two different things, but it's the same thing. So in the arrival of Yeshua, we will also see the arrival of this planetary system. And at the same time, what is going on our little planet is war. War is the theme. War is what's going on. There's no question. It's overwhelming evidence. That's where we are. We've been seeing it in the stars for years. The fact that Sidon Spring had an encounter with a comet. There was a static discharge. It lit up like a light bulb. Those two together in the sky is a bad omen. It essentially is saying war and destruction is coming. And usually after a comet, it's somewhere around 4 years, you'll see a major world war break out. Go back and look at all the Desert Storm, first and second. The first one was 4 years after Halley's Comet. The second one was exactly 4 years after Hale-Bopp. They both were preambles to a war. And so what did we see with Sidon Spring? And the god of war, Mars, come together. It should be a sign for you to understand that war is coming to the world. Not just to America, to the whole world. Now who's going to lead us into this war, guys? Who's going to lead us in this war? I don't think it was going to be Obama. He got us close. He set us up. He set us up. He set the foundation for everything. But who leads us in? I want to see those 4 horsemen that John talks about. Hang tight, guys. You know that rider on the white horse? There's a rider on the white horse. Now, some people actually think this is the Messiah. Some people believe that this is actually the Antichrist. But I look at it as something that's being fulfilled now. Because it's one who has the appearance of conquering. And I saw the Lamb open one of the seals, and I heard as it weird. Let's go to ISR. And I saw the Lamb opening one of the seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying, like the sound of thunder, "Come and see." And I looked and saw a white horse, and he who sat on it holding a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he went out overcoming and to overcome. Now let's examine that. He's given a bow. But where's his quiver? Where is his arrows? He's not given arrows. He's only given a bow. He's also given a crown. He's given a presidency. But in the bow that he gets, he inherits the appearance of power, but he cannot wage war. His mission is to go out and overcome and to overcome. To conquer. To win. Now the rider on the white horse has a bow. And he has a crown. But he has no power, guys. He has no power because he has no ability. All he has is the appearance that he is a warrior. I didn't go real deep into that, but I pray that you can understand what I just said. If you look at the seal of America, one of the I'm not going to go there. I digress. Let's just talk a little bit. So he's given a bow, but no arrows. What do you think that means? Oh, you go say, "Oh, CodeSearcher, you're reading too." It doesn't say that. It doesn't say it doesn't get any bows. Yeah, I know. It doesn't say that. I know. It's just a sewed understanding. It's a hidden understanding there is what I'm telling you. He has the appearance of power, but is not actually powerful. And I'm actually trying to get you to understand we're talking about America. This rider on the white horse, the rider is a representation of righteousness, of purity. This king given a crown and a bow, and he is to go out and conquer and to overcome. Then you look at the other riders that ride with him. There are a lot of people who are hyper Trump. And, you know, I've recently spoke on this. I have lost several subscribers. And by the way, if you're watching this right now, you probably haven't hit the unsubscribe button like some have. I've noticed that an average of 20 on each of one of those videos are just unsubscribed, and they just couldn't handle what I said about the presidency or, you know, Mark Taylor, one of those two. And that's pretty shallow, first of all. Second of all I did was present to you some facts. I didn't have an agenda. I still don't have an agenda. I don't have a horse in this race at all. I'm a spectator just like you. I'm just a watchman on the wall. I'm just calling it as it is. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm not dipping it in, molasses for you. Sometimes it's hard. It's harsh. It's bitter. And thus, those prophets we talked about, in every one of them, every last one of them in the Bible, all the way down through the minor prophets, all spoke about the same thing. The very same thing. There's a theme there. It's a theme. And it is the second coming of our Messiah, guys. No question. How some will fit in this rapture in between this great and terrible day beforehand, because this is when the resurrection happens. The dead in Christos, or the dead in Yeshua, who rise. When do they rise? At his coming, when he breaks through those clouds and he comes with a sword. The dead rise first, and those of us that remain will be caught up with him, so that where he is, we will be with him always. Where is that? Well, he's coming with his New Jerusalem. That's where you will be. New Jerusalem comes down to the planet, guys. It doesn't come down and go back up. It doesn't say that. You're caught up into the clouds where New Jerusalem is, but New Jerusalem comes down. It comes to earth. Not the other way around. And so the storehouse, or the chambers, if you will, where you may be put for 3 days to hide from his indignation, I think it's probably New Jerusalem. And I didn't come up with that, by the way. I got that in a confirmation from some very wise young men I've found here recently. The Parable of the Vineyard, Adam, Timothy, Gavin, and the guys over there. They got that revelation from the Ruach HaKodesh. And so what we see is a confirmation. When I see that he's revealing in others, when he's revealed to me, then there's this sense of ease and acceptance that he's telling us. He's warning us. He's preparing us for this great day, guys. Don't get distracted. Please don't get distracted. We all would love to see America great again. I served in the United States Marine Corps, guys. I'm not making that up. I served in the Marines. That's just one picture. I've got pictures. I'm a patriot. My grandfather, my father, who retired Sergeant Major, all of my uncles, Army, Navy, Marines, every branch. cousins, and also Navy, Marines, Air Force. We all serve. So it's a patriotic family, guys. I'm not abandoning the love I have for this country. I'm trying to be real with you. Let's be real. We're all taught to be patriotic. Uncle Sam, remember? But what you're not told in schools and what you're not exposed to is some of the actual truth that goes on behind the scenes, like the Bilderbergers and Bohemian Grove and some of the Satan worship and the sex trafficking of children and the Satan Luciferian worship that goes on. Oh, you're not told about that. That's the dark side. But it's true. You guys were with me when I was exposing the Barak Shriner Temple in Louisiana. I went through some really hard times after that, and when I started putting the pieces together after the fact, and started examining what I did in that. If you go to Google Earth now, some of those images have been scrubbed. You can't even see what's on the side of the building because they blur it out. And I thought, why do they do that? And it's because what I exposed went viral. And so the exposure that people found that and went, probably even called the temple harassing, it eventually came back to me, right? And some of the local people saw this. Law enforcement, judges, all these Masons that were offended, right? Billboard right outside this temple, the Barak Temple. Barak, we had Obama in the White House at the time, and on the side of this temple is an Egyptian head, right, with Obama's face in it, but also a Muslim sword. It's kind of like a curved sword with a crescent moon and a star and all that kind of. It's Muslim stuff, and the temple's called Barak, and I exposed it outside a big billboard talking about the Templars are the protectors of the Bible along I-20, a major interstate in northern Louisiana. So I put this all over the internet, and boy, did I offend some people, and my life was hell. I lost my family. I had law enforcement following me, helicopters following me. I'm not psychotic. I'm not paranoid, guys. I'm telling you what happened. There were witnesses. I had a helicopter following me for 3 days because I did a radio interview about Obama, and that was the effect of that. So I know what I'm talking about. Tapped phone, hacked computers, you name it. I was in court on charges. They come and got me. Two deputies one morning come and got me at 7 o'clock in the morning for a traffic ticket. And somehow or another I forgot to go to court or something like that. It's not usually something they come and get you for. They'll wait until you get pulled over for speeding or something like that, and then they'll take you to jail because you got an expended license or something like that, right? No, they come and woke me up at 7 o'clock in the morning and took me of a minor traffic ticket. And I believe because a lot of these people involved were Masons and Catholics, all the people that I offended, had me locked up for 3 hours, and in that time my dwelling was broken into. Passwords were stolen, who knows whatever, but my house was broken into. Matter of fact, when I was being put in the car by one of the deputies, the other one was doing whatever in my place. So it became very clear that you offend the wrong people, you'll find yourself in a place where you cannot control the situation. Not when you're in handcuffs. In situations like that, there'll be a news News story. Inmate or man arrested hangs himself in jail. Something like that, right? It's happened. To off you. We're talking about Luciferians. Jesuits. You know, when the Pope was announced, there was a new Pope. It was a long time I was doing some dark black Pope stuff, Antichrist. I was looking at Jesuits, incidentally, in Louisiana. Huge place for Jesuits. Loyola, excuse me. College, Jesuit college, right there. And I'm out there running my mouth, and my life goes crazy after that. They railroaded me. I was accused of all kinds of stuff in my ministry. My ex abandoned me. Incidentally, she works in the court system, so I don't know how far that went, or what was aided in the hacking of my computers, but I ruffled some feathers, guys, and I don't know why I got in that rant. The point is, the evil gets away with evil until that great day. There's some of you looking for Hillary to get arrested, Obama to be in shackles. I'd love to see it. I would really love to see it, just as much as you do. But will it happen? We will see. We will see, guys. And I think it will be very apparent to everyone that evil gets away with evil until Yeshua comes back. This is the cry of Habakkuk, the prophet, in his writings, as he makes this observation, this very observation that evil is getting away with evil. Abba, you do nothing? You righteous creator of all things, where's the justice? You're not doing anything? This is Habakkuk's cry. He saw all of this evil, even in the temple. This going on, abominations and idol worship and everything that was happening. And nobody did anything. Habakkuk's calling it out. Jeremiah is the only one. Kicks over the idols and smashes them. Calls out the king. Calls out the false prophets. And they throw him in jail. Throw him in a pit. Nobody wants to listen. Don't bring us that doom and gloom. Jeremiah, come on, man. Doom and gloom. Where's the hope? You better come up with some sugarcoating, because that doom and gloom is going to get you in the pit. And I know I'm kind of being facetious. I'm mocking in such a way, but you go and read what Elijah did with the Baals, guys. He mocked them. He was making a point. And I think you'll see January come and go. The midterms come and go. Evil will get away with evil until our Messiah comes. Why is Hillary Clinton and Bill, by the way, they're on a tour right now. All over the country, raising money 2 years before the election. Will she go away? Is she raising money for her court? Her lawyers? No. We haven't seen the last. And you're not going to see Obama in shackles. His day comes when our Messiah arrives. You're going to see it happen. You'll see that day. Be very clear. You won't need someone to give you an interpretation of what God is doing. Okay? Because when you think that he's judging all the evil of this country and giving America a pass, right, on the iniquities, contrary to what we've read in the scriptures, it's very clear. It's very clear. He's going to chasten. It's going to hurt. But he will not utterly make a full end. Okay? It's not going to be pleasant for many people. That is what the word says. It does not say that good triumphs over evil because God is going to clean house before the day of Yahuwah. Does not say that, guys. Okay? I'm being real with you. That promise is for the wicked, by the way. You, as a believer, you have all the promises of what he said. I will preserve you. I will not make a full end of you. I will save you. My heart is for you. Over and over again, he tells you, and it's what a loving father does. I know because I'm a father, and he's taught me in that we have to be stern sometime with our children. It's a lesson involved. It's not because I want to punish my children. It's this lesson involved, this chastening, this healthy respect for the Father. And when it talks about the fear of the Lord, what they say in English, we're talking about a healthy fear, like you would fear your father. When you saw your father grab the belt, you knew your heart dropped down to your big toe. Oh my, it's about to be on like Donkey Kong. I've done it now. It's because you feared your father, right? Did anybody have a dad in your life? Did you have any of that? I didn't particularly, but I did have a grandfather that filled the role, and he didn't mind picking up switch. And that's why. Spare the rod, spoil the child. And that's what they did in my day. Now, you might go to jail for that, but they did that. And you had this healthy fear of, I don't want to go down that road because I get punished for that. And that is the reason our Father chastens. So we learn from our lessons. Because we don't learn from our history. We don't look back and learn. That don't ever work. Because we can see it happen over and over and over and over and over and over and again to your life, and we just do the same thing, right? So that chastening is so we don't forget it, so we grow into it. We grow out of it. I want to thank you guys for joining me on this 18th day of October. Pretty much of an impromptu broadcast and teaching. Wasn't planned. But I wanted to kind of change it up a little bit. You know, and some have got upset with me for the last couple of broadcasts and the message there. And I was, maybe need to move on to another topic. So here's the attempt of that, right? What we really should be paying attention to, these things that the Father say will happen. There's no pause button on prophecy, folks. It just does not. Now he may give us a little time here and there. He's a merciful Elohim. But he's not going to heap 50 years onto us, 20 years onto us, and the whole timeline changes. What he has purposed in, what he has purposed to happen, will come to pass. My gosh, there's a lot of you here this evening. I should do a broadcast every night. Would you guys, would you come if I broadcast every night? I mean, that's a pretty good show up right there for this channel. Just at one sitting. Thank you guys for showing up for this lecture. We've been going about an hour and 30 minutes. And that wasn't an alarm either. That was an email. Thank you to who are they telling to call? Am I supposed to be getting those numbers? Who is that wants me to? Hang on, I got to write these numbers down. It's Tara's wanting me to call her.
Well, I asked her to email you.
Email me, yeah. But who is Elijah Hanavi? I don't either. Just in case I need that. Shalom and Todah. Shelby, thank you for that compliment. I try to be, even it doesn't matter how hard it is or how gloomy it is. When he lays it on me, I gotta tell you, I gotta reveal it to you, because if I don't, he don't let me. He don't give me any peace. The Holy Spirit will physically make me hurt. And it's usually in my back region, as if I got some kind of something stuck in my back. Very tense and, uncomfortable feeling. And, when I, do my video or do what he's put on my heart, that's usually released and it goes away. But when I dwell and procrastinate the Holy Spirit, it's like wrestling with him. And Jacob was injured. Remember that? It's sort of like that, I guess, where you wrestle with the Holy Spirit, just kind of not resisting, just procrastinating. There's only one subject I've resisted, and that was the preacher rapture thing. I did kind of hold that under the wraps for about 2 months, and it wasn't easy. I was being hammered. That was the first time I'd experienced the back pain stuff, relentless, and when I did eventually reveal that, it went away. But that's the only subject I held out on you guys. Any other time, I fell through, followed up. Folks, if you would, please thumbs up, share this broadcast. Help us out there on YouTube. I think there's shadow banning and sandbagging channels like this, and I could use your help. Thank you for those that are partnering with this ministry. If you helped us with donations, thank you for that. We sure need you. And if you would like to donate, there's links down below. You can certainly bless us. We are every month about this time. It's difficult, right around midpoint. But I'm sure it's like that for everybody, right? They make it hard for you to make it on YouTube now, guys. But I am committed to be here. But we certainly need you guys' help. All right. May Yeshua bless you guys. If there's not really any questions we see going over there, Darla? Be paying attention to the sky, guys. If Yeshua said, look up. I think there's a little more into that statement than just looking up. He intends for us to pay attention to what's going on.
Oh, Jesse Gay wondered if you got her email.
I do not know. I'll have to go and see. What is it? What is it under?
JESSIGAY. Jesse Gay.
If my mom is watching, I love you, Mom. Sometimes she watches. And if my niece is watching, I love you, Cece. Malam Apollo. Shalom, guys. I love you. Darla loves you. The Most High loves you. He sent his son, Yeshua, to save you. And he is coming again. That's the good news. That is the good news of the Bible. He is coming again. What he did before, he's going to do again. Hallelujah. We'll see you at the next broadcast. Aloha and shalom.